it's not about energy efficiency so much as about cost.
Okay.
And running cost.
Okay.
So we're back to this primary purpose of the EPC is to tell somebody before they move into a property how much it's going to cost to heat, light, ventilate, produce hot water.
Okay. Can we say that point again slowly?
The aim of an EPC is to tell somebody that is looking to move into a property how much it will cost them to heat, light, ventilate and produce hot water.
I believe we're heading into one of the most volatile times in property history, and it's time for you to exchange your time and your education for wealth. Ever since I started this podcast, I have been on a mission to find out what traits make someone successful. What experience do they have? What environment did they grow up in? It's really important to find and locate these certain traits because you need to transmute that into what you do every day. It's been a great learning so far and there's lots more coming, so stay tuned for great interviews throughout this podcast. Hi there, all, Sebring here. I'm with John from Jack Ray Services.
Good morning.
He's kindly invited me down and we've organised this because I thought his services are very valuable as we're heading into the future, and we're going to deep dive into that now, and I thought it would be great for you to share your knowledge and experience.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So I just want to quickly start off with 3 quick fire questions, just to settle the interview and get everyone engaged. What's your favourite book or 2 books?
Well, the book that's had the biggest influence on me is Linda Burns' The Secret.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that about? Sorry.
It's about how you can take control of your life, and it's all around the think, act, believe, become, and the theory that if you say that something is going to happen to you, it will, be it good or bad, or if you imagine something is going to happen to you, good or bad. So it's all around the stuff around manifesting and giving to return.
Nice.
Or receive, rather.
Nice.
That sort of thing.
I like it. Sort of a lot of mindset there and application.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I'm just suddenly thinking, actually, is it Linda Byrne? Or is it Lorna? Anyway, she's an Australian woman that she wrote a book and made a film out of it.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the description if you want.
Yeah, put a link to it. It changed my life.
Okay, nice. What makes someone successful?
I've got no idea. I'll tell you when I think I'm successful.
I think you're successful already. Attribute something that you look up to, that you know someone who's successful.
I think it just boils down to just being honest. And if you can be honest in a nice way, then that's going to make life an awful lot easier for you and the people that you encounter.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not always possible, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Be nice, be honest, treat people as you expect to be treated, and yeah.
Nice. I like that. What's wrong with the economy right now?
Right, okay. What's wrong with the economy right now? Self-interested media and politicians that are in the job for their own self-interest rather than the good of the country. And just blithering idiots that haven't got the first idea.
Yeah.
Out of touch multi-billionaires running the country of ordinary people doesn't stack up, and it doesn't help we've got disproportionate misrepresentation. Not that I've got an opinion.
Brilliant. Love that answer. I agree with a lot that you said there.
Which bits do you disagree with? Don't.
I believe there should be more like-minded, successful billionaires, millionaires who are actively involved in the way the country's run because of how entrepreneurship and the values there.
Oh yes, yeah, I get that. But Donald Trump was not a self-made millionaire.
No.
Or billionaire. He says he is, but he didn't. He inherited. And there's a lot of people that come out of the Eton Harrow pool that didn't get to swim in that pool on a scholarship.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And that's the bottom line with all of that. You've come from a an overprivileged background. And Rishi Sunak does not need to work because his missus is
Minted.
minted. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Hey, at least you pay some tax in this country.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, brilliant. Do you want to talk a little bit about yourself? What you do, what your services are?
Yes, so Jack Ray Services provides a number of property-related services. So it all started with, initially it all started with me actually helping homeowners and doing solar PV surveys.
Okay.
Because I had an interest in the environment and a background in engineering. And I was also working for a company doing some document collection. They were involved as well in the energy company obligation schemes. And both were saying to me, look, why don't you do EPCs as well? So I looked at it and did the training. And since then, we've built up a business over the last 10 years where we're doing in the region of between 150 and 200 assessments a month, amongst other things. But we do have other services. We provide Legionella risk assessments for private landlords.
Yeah.
We can do floor plans, we do photos, and the other related bits and pieces.
So in a bit, I'd like to just touch on each one of those services that you provide, sort of what their use is, you know, how do you take those surveys or assessments. But should we just start on the EPC related stuff?
That leads on to the
rest.
the other part of it. Yeah, I mean, it's our core business, but the other part of it that I didn't mention is the energy consultancy.
Yes,
and
of course.
That's really the kind of a hot button for a lot of private landlords.
I think especially as we head into the future now,
yes,
you know, being aware of that is so important in terms of if you're buying a property.
Yeah.
So let's touch on quickly what an EPC is, what it's used for.
Okay. So first of all, there are different types of EPCs. So if you are building a new property, part of the process is that you're going to be asked for the SAP calculations to be done because they want to ensure that you're actually going to be building the property in compliance with the building regulations and the target to hit certain U values for the walls, floors, windows and roof. That SAP certificate, or those SAP certificates and section drawings of the property are then turned into a draft EPC in most cases.
Yeah.
That's then presented to planning and building control. And then at the end of the build, that is then converted into a lodged on construction EPC. Okay. We don't do those.
No.
I've got people that I can put you in touch with if you do want them, but there's a different skill set and it's a desktop exercise and I'm not a desktop type of person.
No.
I like to be out and about. So that's the on construction EPC produced by an on construction energy assessor.
Yeah.
Primarily I'm a domestic energy assessor, but there are also energy assessments for commercial properties.
Yeah.
There's three different types of those depending on the size and complexity, ventilation, heating and cooling systems within those properties. And we get involved with all of those. They are primarily around the carbon impact or the carbon footprint of that property and the environmental impact of commercial properties.
Yeah.
As opposed to the domestic EPC, which is all about the cost of heating, lighting, ventilation, and producing hot water in the property. And if you have an existing dwelling as opposed to something that's just come out of the ground, then that's used or produced using a process called reduced data standard assessment procedure, as opposed to the full standard assessment procedure, which is used to produce the on construction EPCs. But they should both be sort of the same, although the clue with the existing dwelling EPC is the reduced data thing. It's a little bit. The software makes a lot more assumptions
Okay.
about energy efficiency.
Okay.
So, for example, if you've got a property that has been over-specced on the insulation because it's a self-build, or it's somebody's personal home that they've had a builder build, that will be reflected in the on-construction EPC. However, if a new EPC is produced for that property, then it's going to assume that the U values, so the thermal efficiencies of those walls, was produced or was manufactured by the builder to the spec, the minimum spec that was required for compliance with building control.
Okay. It's a lot of information there.
Wasn't there?
But it's all good.
Oh, that's me skimming the surface.
No, oh really? In terms of scoring the residential side, now we touched on sort of the heating, the ventilation, how well the property produces energy and how well that is kept. How do you score that system? Are you given instruction to? Is there so as we know it as A, B, C, D, E, F?
Yep.
The minimum requirement in 2028 is going to be a C.
Yep.
So what is that based on, that scoring system?
Right. What's it based on? I've been told it's an Excel spreadsheet somewhere. Lord knows how that works. But
yeah.
So when an energy assessor produces an EPC, they are responsible solely for inputting a set of data. And that data is how the walls, floor, roof is constructed, how the windows are, or what the age and type of windows are within the property and the doors. It then looks at how the property as what the heating system is. So what type of heating system is it? Is it gas, electricity? Is it one of the renewable types? And then it goes on to then look at how the hot water is produced. Yeah. So the assessor has to put all of that data in, as well as measuring the property.
Yeah.
And producing a plan as part of their evidence. So what that then does when it's in the measurements are input into the software is it will then turn out what the heat loss perimeter of the property is in square meterages.
Okay.
So the heat loss perimeter is the floors, the walls and the roof.
Yeah.
You will also be able to then calculate the volume of the property.
Okay.
So by calculating the volume of the property, you know how much energy it's going to take to actually heat it.
Yeah.
By knowing what the energy source is, so it's a gas combi boiler, okay, and it's this old, so it's not condensing all of that information, right, okay, so it's going to take this much gas to actually heat that volume of property, and then it's going to say, right, and then with the construction of these walls, roofs and ceilings, it's going to take this much energy to actually maintain the heat at a comfortable level.
Okay, I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got no idea how it calculates that.
Okay. So it's just inputting the data into a created system that comes out with a value.
Yeah.
So without having that system, you're never going to know really what your EPC is.
No. And so if you go back to the on-construction EPC, then you've got a lot more depth in that. So with an on-construction EPC, the assessor will actually do a makeup of the different materials that would make up the walls or the floors or the roof, and their thicknesses and the U values of those materials.
Okay, so it's the on construction is they're creating the EPC, the building before it's made, and they can tell how much it's going to cost to produce the heating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with the exception, so where an RD-SAP EPC can be used on a new building is if you're converting an unheated space into a dwelling. So if you're doing a garage, barn, factory, church, possibly in some cases, conversion, then or derelict, then you can then say that this is a property that has been built post 2012.
In terms of the on-construction EPC, if you're refurbing a property that's run down, and I called yourself to come out,
Yep.
would you base it on, would I have to do that after I finish the refurb? Or could I do it while I'm doing it and you would
Right.
make up the materials that I would input?
So, what we can and what we do for a number of our clients is they will come to us and they will say, look, we're looking to buy this property and we are going to put the classic is we're going to do a wraparound extension on two sides and an attic conversion. We're taking a 3-bedroom house, we're going to turn it into a 5-bed HMO.
Okay, yeah.
It's just fairly standard business model, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what we can do is we can produce an EPC on the property as it is at the moment in draft form. And what we can then do is we can model the extensions and say, right, okay, well, these are going to be built to the 2012 building regulations. And so they'll say, right, okay, well, we're going to put this many square metres of room in roof on the first floor. So we say, right, okay, well, look, if you just do that, this is what the EPC will look like. With the wraparound on the ground floor and then the room in the roof on the top floor,
loft, yeah.
You're going to increase the volume of the property, so you're going to increase the heat demand, but you're also going to reduce, in a lot of cases, the heat loss perimeter of the older 1930s walls or Victorian walls or whatever it is. And so there's a gain and a loss. You're reducing or you're making the heat loss perimeter more efficient, but you're
growing the space.
So then what we can look at modelling for people is what the different types of cost on running the heating system is going to be. We're going to do things like they'll say, well, okay, look, we're going to keep these existing windows, but we're going to put new windows in here. We're going to, there's the 1930s house or the Victorian house with the out the back kitchen with the bathroom above or the small bedroom above. Yes, we're going to insulate the roof in this, and we'll talk through what they can do. Or we can do a whole, right, okay, max spec this one, and if you were to insulate and improve the insulation on the walls, floors, and the roof, then it's going to make it look like this. If you use this heating system, it'll look like that. If you use this heating system, it'll look like that. And we'll break that down and show what the actual difference and gains are and all of those things.
That's good. So there's multiple options there. To see what works, you know.
Yeah.
And you input that in. So you would come away from your assessment with all these different ideas, and then you would put them into your systems, and you would find the best results.
Yeah, we produce a spreadsheet and a summary that will say, right, okay, look, this is what the property will look like if you just put the extensions on and put the attic conversion in. Then heating systems A, B, C, D, E will increase that base point by that. Insulating the walls with this much, that much, or that much insulation will give you that many, or that many more points on the EPC, and the same with the wall. So we'll actually give a insulation thickness breakdown and point gain. That can be quite useful because it can mean that people can use thinner materials or more efficient materials. And so reducing cost and not having such a massive impact if you're doing the insulation internally.
Or to lose the space. Of course.
Yeah, because on HMOs, as we all know, the floor space is kind of key.
Definitely. In terms of how efficient it is now, so the investment it takes to bring the EPC up to the actual energy saving, do you think there needs to be better design in terms of bringing the cost down to get those materials in? Do you know what I mean? No. So
don't follow that.
No. So insulating the property costs £10,000.
Yep.
And it only saves you, it does that average out over the long period of time?
What the numbers that are actually on the EPC where they talk about those
It's
gains?
more the investment into the insulation and the ways of increasing the EPC to make it more energy efficient. Is that a wise investment in the long run?
Yeah, all the time, because it's a permanent investment in the property. Yeah, you're talking about life cycle
Yeah.
of a property. I don't know what the average life of a property is. I mean, huge amounts of properties in Bristol and Bath are Georgian or Victorian. Then I don't know what the proportion of that is, but yeah, if you insulate a Victorian property, then it's been there for maybe 200 years. I would imagine it's going to stay there for another 200 years. Unless it's already showing signs of falling over.
Yeah.
But who knows with global warming? I mean,
Do you think we're obviously every year we're creating new insulation and new material design to make things more efficient? Do you think we're at a stage now where we maximised the efficiency of trying to create it more energy efficient, or do you reckon there's loads more to go?
No, I think there's a lot more scope. I certainly hope not. I mean, there are things. So government is talking about they want more. They're making these noises about, and they said they were going to ban gas going into new builds, which hasn't quite happened. And there've been various dates, and it keeps on getting kicked into the long grass.
Yeah.
And so on one side, you've got the energy companies saying, well, look, this is the cheapest way to do it. And then you've got all of this talk about full fuel sufficiency.
Yeah, of course.
Dragging more gas out of the North Sea, which it doesn't get used in this country. It gets shipped out anyway. That's a political point, forgive me. But there's... they seem to be ignoring the hydrogen option.
Yeah, I agree.
So all the manufacturers now produce boilers that can be converted to hydrogen at a flick of a change of a valve or a seal or two. They've tested these in various isolated locations to see what the chances of them actually going catastrophically wrong are. My personal feeling on that is that hydrogen is very tiny molecules, and it gets away very, very quickly. It moves up, and it moves up very fast. As you remember from your days at science at school, the speed that the balloon went up. It made a nice pop when it did get burst, but that's fun. The issue is that the gas company's infrastructure is predominantly, or there's a lot of cast iron pipes, and cast iron and hydrogen, it rots the pipes out.
Okay.
So it does need those.
So it needs those upgrades to the PVC equivalent now, isn't it?
So if they were then to start focusing more on using renewable electricity to actually generate hydrogen, then that could in turn be burnt to generate more electricity. Not sure whether or not that's a perpetual motion model. Is there such a thing that's ever going to work? Probably not. But then if you've got that being sent out, because using a gas to heat something is
the best, the most efficient way of doing it.
It seems to be the most efficient at the moment.
Because those cost implications, gas is the cheapest, but you got one area of the EPC which we want to make the environment better. That's being more efficient and being better for the environment. But then the cheapest way to do that is to use the worst.
So what government have done with the EPCs, so they've changed them, and they've changed the way the answers come out of them, and they've changed the emphasis. And they've really dialed back the environmental impact elements of an EPC. Which is kind of not that smart, but when they're being lobbied by the energy companies, it kind of... Oh, I'm getting political again, aren't I?
We have to. These are good points.
But so I mean, you've got these incentives for. I mean, It doesn't seem to be happening quite so much now, but 6, 7, 8 years ago, I was producing EPCs for people that had an air source heat pump put in. And they wanted the new EPC for the air source heat pump because the feed-in tariff was based on the energy usage off the EPC. And people were getting really upset with me because their EPC was suddenly worse, and they'd had this new super efficient. Of course it's going to be worse. It's about cost. Well, what do you mean? Well, your air source heat pump is.
It's more renewable, but it costs more to heat up the house. So therefore, it's less energy efficient.
That's right. It's more expensive to run, and then they get really browned off when it says that on the EPC that their water heating is poor because it comes from the main heating system. It's like, well, how can that be? Well, because an air source heat pump works by circulating warm water around your house with a flow temperature of 40 maybe, somewhere around that. It's not high, which is why you have to upgrade your radiators and ensure the house is insulated properly, and why it's going to be extraordinarily expensive to run if you've got it in an old Victorian drafty house that hasn't been insulated at all. Please don't do that. But then it says on the water heating that it's poor, and the reason that it says it's poor is because, amongst other things, you need water going through your hot water system at around 60 degrees. So there's an immersion heater on there that is increasing the water temperature to create, to make sure that you're not creating an incubator for the Legionella bacteria. And ensure that it is hot enough for you to be able to use it, because nobody really wants to have a bath in water that's 37 degrees.
For sure. No, I can understand.
Doesn't feel quite right.
No. So you got sort of a conflict there, because you got more energy, more environmentally friendly. It's not more energy efficient. It's less. In some cases,
it's not about energy efficiency so much as about cost and running cost. So we're back to this primary purpose of the EPC is to tell somebody before they move into a property how much it's going to cost to heat, light, ventilate, produce hot water.
Can we say that point again slowly?
The aim of an EPC is to tell somebody that is looking to move into a property how much it will cost them to heat, light, ventilate and produce hot water. Primary objective. It does other stuff as well, but that's
the main role. Tips. Without giving anything away from your service. What can someone do? What's the main points in an EPC? So you got your insulation, your heating system.
So first things first. With any property, if you want to reduce the running cost, take a materials first approach, which is what things like the retrofit and the Green Deal assessments were supposed to do. What eco funding should be doing. Which are all brilliant ideas, but are not being executed as efficiently as they could, because let's have another chat about energy company obligation. Different time.
It's another deep dive.
Because it is something that can and should and could actually help people, but they're
not running it right.
You set up a system where people pay 2.5% of their energy bills as a levy for the energy company obligation. The objective of the energy company obligation is to help people in fuel poverty. So you want somebody to administer that who is got a priority in helping people reduce their energy costs.
But they haven't got those priorities.
Energy consumption. So does it make sense to have a corporation that is looking to make a profit out of selling energy in charge of that? No, it doesn't. It makes no sense whatsoever.
I agree. It's a conflict of it.
You're putting the chicken in the hen coop. And then they're wondering why. And some of the things that you see Yeah. Houses that are built in the 1990s that have had free cavity wall insulation put into them. Why? Well, because an energy assessor has been encouraged to lie about the age of the property so that they can make it look like they're making a massive carbon tonnage saving, which helps the energy company hit their objective without reducing their profit. And we're paying 2.5% of our energy bills to fund that.
Baffling.
Yeah,
isn't it?
baffling. Sorry, I used to work in the power industry.
Yeah, it's great. It's great points to highlight. You know, we touched
Sorry,
on.
we got off surface.
It's all good. It's all good. You know, it's all good. In terms of, we touched on the EPC.
Oh, you're asking about what the best thing to do?
Yeah.
Material first.
Yeah.
Every time, material first, because any plant and equipment that you put into that property to actually generate heat, if you've insulated the property as fully as you possibly can, if it's been draft proofed, if you've got your ventilation controlled, if you've got LED lighting rather than fluorescent lighting, then you're going to then reduce the
cost of heating that property.
Yes, because you're going to reduce the need for the heating of the property. You go into a lot of modern homes now, and the people say, "Oh, well, I never had the heating on." And it's like, because you've got the gain from actually having warm people in there heating it up.
So first of all, let's insulate and stop heat escaping as much as we can.
Yeah.
And then look at the heating system to see if it's efficient.
Yeah.
Instead of upgrading the heating system and then trying to work out where you can save on insulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Material first every time.
Okay.
And in your own home, thick curtains.
Yeah.
It's a temporary measure, but it works. If you've got, doors open, doors close. Okay, well, don't have outside doors opening straight into your living space.
Yeah.
Design your home so that you've got a porch.
Yeah, I like that.
Front and back doors.
What's your thoughts on the trend, or not a trend, but more desirable open plan properties that take more to heat? Is there definitely a larger area that's open in terms of the same area that's more closed off? Would it be different measurements to heat both of those properties, or would it be roughly the same?
So the EPC doesn't look at that. An assessor has to put into the EPC software the number of rooms in a property.
Okay.
The number of rooms then drives the occupancy, and the occupancy figure is then used to drive the hot water costs. Okay? So, it's not registered in the EPC particularly. However, from the point of heating a home, if you have got everything downstairs that's open plan, and then an open plan staircase going up to a landing, and then there are 4 bedrooms upstairs, 2 have got, one's got an ensuite, and you've got a family bathroom.
Yeah.
All the time that you're sat downstairs watching the telly, doing your day-to-day and everything else, the heat's going upstairs.
Yeah.
Because it's what it does. It
travels.
You can't stop it. So if you were then to close off the staircase, you're going to then keep that all in one place.
Okay.
And it's going to stop the smells of cooking fish going upstairs.
Okay, yeah. We've all had that.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, makes sense, absolutely.
So, and then what you can do is, if you then can isolate that, because one of the things that you can do if you, particularly with HMOs, top tip to improve the EPC, put in a zone control system so that the bedrooms are in one zone and the habitable spaces, the living rooms, the kitchens,
of course,
and studies, those spaces are on a different
zone.
Yeah, so they've got different timings and things like that. And
I like that.
That's the EPC is never going to recommend that. Right?
No.
You don't see that.
No, but that's something that should be recommended.
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah.
Because so in a nutshell, close off areas of the property, insulate well so heat isn't escaping.
Yeah. If you're designing your own home, well, if I'm designing my own home, then that's what I'm going to be thinking about. Yes, it's lovely having the big sweeping staircase and all of that. It's really impressive. And when you've got all of that, maybe you don't need to worry about the cost of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Don't worry about the cost of it. Worry about the environment.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's kind of it's those practical things, practical points.
Okay. Thanks for touching on the EPC. I might dive back into it, but I'm just wary of time, and I want to touch on each of the other points that your company provides.
Right.
So the legislation within lettings, you touched on sort of the hazardous.
Right. Okay. So Legionella risk assessment.
Legionella risk
So
assessment.
we provide Legionella risk assessments for private landlords.
Yeah.
Do you remember back in 2015 when everybody was rushing around like lunatics putting up carbon monoxide alarms?
Yeah.
One of the funniest things I've ever seen is a carbon monoxide alarm in an all-electric flat.
Yeah.
What is that doing there? Oh, we were told that we had to have one in all our rental properties.
Yeah.
And that was all off the back of a House of Commons briefing paper in October 2015. Smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, and Legionella risk assessments, advice for private landlords. Everybody read the first 2 pages and started fitting carbon monoxide alarms at £100 a pop when you buy them for £7.50, and ignored the Legionella risk assessments. The bit of legislation that's relevant to the Legionella risk assessments is that, first of all, the Health and Safety Executive said private rental properties are commercial premises. So that's covered by the Health and Safety at Work Act. Secondly, within the Health and Safety at Work Act is the control of substance hazardous to health. Water contains a Legionella bacteria. The Legionella bacteria, if dispersed in aerosol droplets and inhaled by somebody, can give them a potentially fatal chest infection.
Okay.
So water now becomes a potentially hazardous substance under COSH. So legislation is that you have to, as a landlord, ensure the safety of anybody that's in your property.
Yeah.
I think it's the 3rd paragraph. It even goes so far as to say, even if you're only renting out a room in your own home.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
So how do you do that? Well, you can do a Legionella risk assessment yourself. Or you can pay somebody like us to provide it for you. A pretty good value for money, we think. Worst case scenario is that if you were to end up stood in front of a coroner because somebody has died in your property from, well, if it's from smoke inhalation and the smoke alarms that you put up weren't working, and they weren't working because the tenants had told you.
You're obliged then. It's your fault.
You put your own head in the noose. With Legionella risk assessments, the same kind of scenario. You're stood in front of a coroner, and the coroner says to you, "How did this happen?" Did you do a Legionella risk assessment? Yes, I did. Okay. What was your qualification to do that? I downloaded a risk assessment from the... Right, okay, you got it off the internet. Yeah, okay. Anything else? No, that was it. And you assessed that there wasn't a risk there? Right, yeah, okay. And did you give that to the tenant? Yeah, okay. Where's the tenant's copy? Where's your evidence that you did give that to the tenant? And so we go down a whole
rabbit hole of trying to prove.
Yeah.
But it goes down to the obligation. Have you done the proper assessment?
Have you done it? Can you prove it?
Yeah.
What we do is we take all of that worry away and help to protect the landlords, and we provide a risk assessment that looks at the condition of the hot and cold water systems within the property as they are currently, makes recommendations on any remedial action that
needs to
be taken. So, is the hot water coming out hot enough? Is the cold water coming out cold enough to kill the bacteria? Is everything nice and clean and as it should be, or is there sediment in storage tanks? Is there lime scale on taps and showers? And then we put in other things, such as, for example, the equipment needs to be used as it's designed to be used and report any defects.
Yeah.
So I did a number of assessments. I did 17 Legionella risk assessments yesterday.
Wow.
Of them, 3 of those Legionella risk assessments, and these were all properties with combi boilers and a mixture of gas and electric combi boilers. One of the electric combi boilers, it took several resets on it to actually get it to deliver the hot water hot enough.
Yeah.
And on 3 of the combi boilers, the hot water wasn't coming out of them because faults develop within those boilers on the heat exchangers, and they're not getting the hot water across the property properly.
Okay,
We come across other things on older systems where you have it's been plumbed in and the cold water pipe is running above the hot water pipe and they're not insulated.
Yeah, so that
So you get temperature balancing.
Yeah,
and so,
that's crazy.
Yeah, the water coming out of the hot water is at 40 degrees, and the whole system can potentially be hazardous or a breeding ground for the bacteria. Or you get things like dead legs, where you can check this one yourselves. If you've got a utility room that's been there since the 1990s, and there's a hot water pipe to supply the washing machine, that's a dead leg, because you haven't been able to buy a hot fill washing machine for quite a number of years now.
Yeah.
So that does create a dead leg. That dead leg, so you have water in there where it's being warmed up, where it tees off and this goes off here, it doesn't go anywhere, and the bugs just sit there and this is nice enough, this is nice and comfy and warm. I mean, you go away on holiday, and they go, right, okay, well, they've gone on holiday, let's go on ours. And they migrate off through the rest of the system. Okay. Somebody comes home, has a shower, blasts themselves in the face with a load of...
whatever.
Yes, there's a lot of cases of people come back from holiday. And do they come back from holiday with Legionnaire's disease because... the standards in the Mediterranean
aren't as heavily enforced,
or have they actually caught it in this?
Already come back into...
Yeah, and it's one of those, who knows?
I think it's good to be aware of all this stuff, all these services you provide, because it's great for people to know. And I don't think there's enough awareness, and educated in ways of just understanding for the sort of younger generations who aren't actively in it.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
Or even what can be done for people that have been involved in property for years and years and years.
Exactly.
I get challenged all the time by people that say, well, I've got Victorian houses in Bath, and there's no way that we can get those properties to Bay & Sea. And yet, I've been to properties, the same properties in the same street, the house next door.
That's done it.
Because somebody's selling it and it's their home. So it can be done. It's whether or not you view doing this work to your portfolio as an investment or an expense. I would argue that it's an investment, because if you can improve the energy efficiency of a property that's being advertised on a regular basis, then if you're given the choice with a property that is a high D or a medium C, and this independent review says this property is going to cost you less to heat, like ventilate, produce hot water, and you've got the choice of the two, which one are you going to go for?
Yeah, I agree. In terms of, I just want to touch on that, your points and your views on a value of a property which has a higher EPC actively increasing the value of the property. So if you've got the same property like that, a D and a C, and they're identical, then that C is going to be valued higher. In the current market, I know, are you aware of anything in the current market that says that that's more valuable? Or is it more just from the buyer itself? Do you see what I mean?
Well, I guess it must be, because people get really grumpy with me if I tell them that their EPC is lower than they think it should be. So I guess the perception is that the better it is, the more valuable, the more attractive a property is. Yeah, surely that's the case. I mean, who wouldn't think so? Where I do see a low EPC being of value, and I can think of. I was presented with somebody was buying a block of 8 Cornish construction flats. Cornish construction. We've got the mansard roofs above system built floor walls, and he came to me because I'd done other work for him. He said, "Look, can you explain to me why all of these are C's and D's, apart from this one, which is an F?"
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, hang on, let's have a look at it.
Yeah.
And we looked at it, and well, it says it's a system build. And then we did a Google Street View of it, and the reason that those were all much better than this one is that was the older EPC. What the local authority that owned these flats had done was they'd done the brick up on the ground floor on all of them. The auctioneers, the vendors, whoever it was, had decided that they didn't need to invest the extra 60, 70, whatever, 120, 300 pounds. I don't know anybody who would pay 300 pounds for an EPC on that, but on getting a new EPC that reflected the fact that the property had actually been improved.
Okay.
What it meant, though, was that people, without actually looking at the properties in any detail, had seen that there was this one flat that wasn't going to be tenantable immediately and was going to need them to do work on it.
So no one ended up. It could have prevented someone from buying that.
I would imagine that there were people that didn't
They'd be turned
buy it.
away.
Yeah.
So it could, even in itself, if you got.
Well, if you're looking to buy a property on the cheap, there's more money to be made out of problems than there is out of an easy deal.
Yeah, definitely.
You know that deal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Problem solving, 100%.
Yeah. So if you've got a property that, and this is where we do come in, you've got a property that looks like it's a real problem. It's a G. But then we can come along and say, yeah, it's a G at the moment, and people are saying, crumbs, that doesn't look that attractive. We then provide you with, look, this is what can be done out of it. You pick the bits out of it for your schedule of works, and they say, right, okay, we can price that. So to upgrade the heating system and insulate the walls, well, that's only going to cost us this much. So, right, okay, yeah, this is now a viable option, provided we can get our ducks lined up and get that work all done in X number of days, and then get it tenanted at that point.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to be looking at it and thinking, oh, crumbs, it needs a new kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. Okay, so we touched on the EPCs, we touched on the Legionella.
Yep.
What else is there?
What else is there? Well, there's the energy consultancy as well.
Which we touched on.
Kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
Yes, we do floor plans.
Floor plans, yeah. So you just go to the property, record the layout, take your measurements, and then provide that to the agents? Do agents come to you?
Right, so on every EPC, the assessor has to produce
Of course.
A floor plan so that when an EPC gets called to audit, the auditor can read the floor plan, look at the photographs, and produce the same EPC as we produce. That's the audit process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Understand.
So that's where we're coming from. You can't use that floor plan for your advertising because it's got all kinds of scribbles and nonsense all over it.
Okay, I understand.
So what we do though is we can convert that into an IPEG or not an IPEG.
A JPEG.
JPEG, that's the one. A JPEG or a PDF.
Yeah. Okay.
And that can then give your tenants an idea of which bits of their furniture are going to fit in which rooms.
Yeah. Of course.
And all of that. I mean, I know not a lot. Not all rental properties have floor plans on them.
No, not all properties on the market, which legally
so we do floor
should
plans.
be there. So
we also do the photos.
Yeah, nice. And the floor plan also gives you the data for the EPC because you work out the size of the rooms, which gives you the volume of the area to be heated. Yeah, and that's in the system.
So I mean, so to produce the EPC, as I said, we have to measure, and then we measure the property, draw a floor plan, and make the notes about the construction, how it's heated, how hot water's produced, all of that.
Yeah.
But we do actually have to evidence what we do, which is why you see the assessors taking the photographs when they're going there.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to use stock photos.
Okay.
We do have to actually take photos. When we are taking the photos, myself and the guys that work on my team, we all use dedicated applications that will timestamp and sequence the photos. So if somebody wants to, they can actually see, right, okay, yeah, we took the photographs of the outside of the front of the property first of all, worked through his house up into the roof space, came back down again, taken all the photographs, and there'll be photographs in the roof space, for example, of not just the roof space showing that the insulation is at the joists, but also another photograph of a tape measure sticking out of the insulation
to see how big it
prove
is.
that we've measured how thick it is.
Okay. I like it. Anything else? So
What we do?
Yeah, EPCs, floor plans, Legionella, surveying, consultancy.
Yeah. I mean, we do. As an aside, I still do surveys for solar PV. So if somebody wants to know, and I can put people in touch with installers that I would personally use.
Yeah.
The same for the boiler upgrade schemes. We give advice on the viability of that. We used to do the room by room heat loss calculations for the air source heat pumps. We don't do that anymore because anybody that wants me to do that for an air source heat pump isn't following the MCS guidelines.
Okay.
So an MCS installer of an air source heat pump, and that's who you need to have doing the work to actually be able to claim the boiler upgrade scheme, should be doing that calculation themselves. And if they're not, then you're probably talking to a sales organisation that is then going to subcontract out the rest of the work. If it doesn't work, then how are you going to get these people back? Because they've not got that service infrastructure and everything else.
Okay.
So there's that kind of top tip if you're thinking of buying an air source heat pump. Get it from somebody local that can fix it when it might go wrong.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to go wrong with them. Basically, it's just a fridge working backwards or an air conditioning unit. So.
Okay. I think we touched base on everything. Good story, bad story.
Good story, bad story.
Any story?
Right, okay. I mean, the bottom line is that if you are concerned about the energy efficiency of a project, then speak to the energy assessor first before you start doing stuff. Because if start a conversation with me and want you to do an EPC, we've just refurbished a property. It was a D, it's going to be a B now.
Yeah.
Makes me go, oh, right. Here we go.
Yeah.
Strap in.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bit round the wrong way, because unless you've actually been told by an assessor who's going to put their name to it right up front, and we can do that, because one of the things with the energy consultancy is that for us to provide that service, we have to have another level of insurance. We have professional indemnity insurance as well as all the other things. Partially because we're a limited company, so we have to have PL and EL and all of that. But we have professional indemnity insurance because what we do is not covered by the pay-per-click insurance that an energy assessor gets for lodging an EPC.
Okay.
So they're only insured when they lodge the EPC. They're not insured. I mean, I'm sure the insurance company would pay out if they were to break a Ming vase accidentally in somebody's property. Because they just happened to turn around too quickly and their jacket caught it or something like that. This isn't something that actually has happened to me. I can assure you, I'm not that clumsy, mostly. So talk to the energy assessor first. The worst one of these that I've ever had, and it was a worst, best, most amusing. No, the client didn't find it in the least bit amusing. Guy said to me, "Can you come out and you did an EPC for us the other day, or a couple of years ago on this property that we refurbished? Could you come out and do another EPC for us? It should be a band B now. We've just put." they had a three-phase supply, and they put on something like 12 kilowatts of PV on the roof. Fantastic. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's going to be good. I didn't go out and do the revisit. One of my guys went out and redid it. And when they came back, invoice got settled, EPC got lodged. I didn't pay any great attention to it. It was just what it was. It was just it was a 3-bedroom flat above a number of shops. And it came back as an F. And the bloke rang me up and was really very upset about the professionalism of my assessor. So I looked at it and looked at the two EPCs together, and he said, how could you get it so wrong? What it'd done was the property had got a gas system boiler in it. The gas system boiler had been removed and had been replaced with an electric boiler. So using an electric boiler to heat a house is the same as trying to heat a house with an electric shower. It's the same thing. You've got you see these red ring things, and they're about that high, and it's just a heating element around a pipe that just pumps the water around the house. It's very, very similar to that. Big electric cylinder.
It's going to take ages, isn't it?
It's not going to work.
No.
Simple as. But his heart was in the right place. He heard all this stuff from government about we're trying to get away from using gas, this, that, and the other. Energy efficiency, greener, cleaner, and so on and so forth. Look, I'm terribly sorry, but the reason it's happened is not because she's got it wrong, but
because you got it wrong.
I wouldn't say that. You've taken the gas boiler out. Yeah, but it's more environmentally friendly. Yes, but the point of an EPC is to tell somebody how much it costs to heat, light, ventilate, produce hot water. How many times have I said that?
Not enough. I'd say it again.
And so, oh no, it's right. Okay. Well, what do we do about it? Have you had the gas supply taken out? No. Have you seen the recommendation on the EPC? He said, what's that? This is blue.
No.
Gas boiler. It's recommended that you don't do what you've... Oh, okay. So he went back a couple of days later. Fortunately, the gas boiler was still in the skip. No, it wasn't. It was in the plumber's van. I don't know what he was going to do with it, but it went back up on the wall, and he did achieve a Band-B, but it was a hard way of achieving it.
Does that go back to the fundamental of people believing electricity is more energy efficient than gas because of the pushed environmental effect on it? Because we know electricity takes a lot of energy to produce. It's not even though there's solar panels and hydroelectric.
Yeah, I mean that's the solar PV, wind, and hydroelectric. I don't believe it's anywhere near 50% yet, even.
Yeah.
So and it's just it's people not fully understanding that the purpose of the EPC is all around the cost.
Okay.
And the environmental impact stuff. They used to put the environmental impact stuff on the bar graph. And you could see how you could change. So you had two bar graphs. One was the cost now, and if you do the works, and the other was the environmental impact if you do the works. And you would get your environmental impact up by putting in an air source heat pump, but you'd also that would be outweighed by cost. So
So for future EPC, forget about the environment.
No, don't, please. Don't forget about the
not forget, but be aware that it's all about how you can heat your home and the cheapest way to do it in terms of
I mean, that's
the most environmentally friendly, which is probably completely different.
I mean, electric heating becomes a lot more viable if you have got the solar PV and you've got the battery system. That's and that's where we have got to get to with that is that you're using more energy efficient produced EPC that you produce domestically.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, and you see that when people put their business heads on, you see it. You know, how many warehouses and factory units, and you know, the Lidl's, and not Lidl so much, but certainly Aldi's have massive PV arrays on them. You look at the Morrison's distribution centre down near Taunton, Bridgewater, huge amounts of PV and solar thermal for all of their needs. But they're not necessarily off grid. But wind farms, get used to it. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, do you want to live on a planet or with wind farms, or do you want to buy?
Yeah. I think there has to be an element of what's practical and what's aesthetically pleasing as well.
Yeah, I mean, people say to me, I don't like the look of solar PV on the roof. Well, you can't see it when you're sat inside the house.
No.
You cannot physically see it. I tell you what, you can see it though when you look at your energy bill.
Yeah, of course.
Huh?
Yeah. No, brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed today. Thank you.
Good.
I want to get you back on in a couple of months, 6 months, something like that, to talk about some more, because I'm wary of time. Because we could be 5-hour-long podcasts here, because there's so many conflicting interests in terms of environmental and energy efficiency. Have we touched on everything? Is there anything else you want to touch on?
There's anything off the list.
I'm quite happy. We can always come back. We've got the goods. We'll keep that.
Yeah, I mean,
Is there any last points?
yeah. So one of these. Oh, we've just improved we've taken out the night storage heaters and replaced them with lovely efficient. I'm going to name these people Fisher storage heaters, or Fisher high performance. What do they call Fisher high retention electric panel heaters. No, they don't utilise off-peak electricity. I'm sorry, infrared ceiling heaters. They do not utilise off-peak electricity. You will not improve the EPC rating of a property if it's already got electric panel heaters by changing the type of panel heater.
Okay, I understand.
And you will absolutely devastate the EPC rating of a property if you take out the night storage heaters and replace it with those panel heaters. Do not believe the electrician that tells you that.
Okay. That's a great point. Really good point.
Keep it. Yeah, if you've got a dual supply, and if you're going to get an air source heat pump put into a property, get an air source heat pump put into the property where the thermal store has got a dual supply on it.
Okay.
Because you can then utilise that dual supply overnight.
In the off-peak hours.
During the off-peak time, yeah. And then if you've got your solar PV on the roof, so you're just using the very cheap nighttime electricity, and you're making your own more expensive daytime electricity.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Top tip.
Thank you.
But insulate it first.
Of course. Insulation, then upgrade. Materials, then upgrade.
Materials first. Insulate. Draft proof as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Have your heating and your ventilation so it's controlled. And another thing around the ventilation, if you put in a mechanical ventilation system, it will reduce the EPC rating.
Okay.
Because it's down to cost, and it costs money to actually switch a switch on, where it doesn't cost money to actually turn a handle and push the vent open.
Okay, I understand.
So that's why you get a worse EPC rating where you've got mechanical ventilation.
Okay, understand. To reach out to you.
Oh,
so what's email, number, company name, website?
So the
I'll
company
put it in the
is
description,
the company is Jack Ray Services, spelled Jackrey, from Jack and Ray for Reynolds. I'm John, so it should be John Ray, but it's not. Jack's no longer in the business. He never was. So it's John, Jon, at jackray.co.uk or www.jackray.co.uk. I'm also on LinkedIn. And my phone number is 077 5343 6294. Love to hear from you.
Okay, I'll put all that in the description below. Thanks again. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have you back on in the future.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Richard.
Thank you.